Let's go! JAVIEN TOVIANO, are you freaking kidding me? LSU gets a huge commitment here from a top 100 DB at a massive position of need. So comment down below, do you believe this is LSU's best defensive back commitment thus far? According to pretty much every recruiting service, this is almost as good as it gets. And I'm going to tell you what I like about JAVIEN Toviano. And a little bit later, I'm going to tell you what I think is going to be very interesting for the coaching staff to figure out. Okay? So, starting off here, as you can see just in the background, he is a very smooth athlete. This guy can move really, really, really well for a player who is big, right? He is a big 6'2". He's kind of sort of built like Darren McFadden, if you remember him, the former Arkansas Razorback running back. And ironically, there are a lot of really good running back clips on Toviano, more so from his junior season than this year. But man, he is a true physical specimen, not only just in his frame, but just in his style of play. He loves to fly in and hit people, and there are also multiple instances of him making plays on special teams, as you see in the background here. So, obviously, LSU is really trying to figure out, well, can we trust him to play in year one as they look to build the secondary, or should I say rebuild the secondary with everybody that is leaving at a very critical position? I believe they're going to try it, right? I believe when you get a top 100 player, you give him the opportunity to get immediate playing time. The one thing I love about Toviano is, well, he loves LSU. Like, it is unbelievable what this guy has done on recruiting visits. Boom! I'm looking at you. Yes, you right now. So, if you haven't subscribed already, I'm going to give you a good little nugget that's going to make you love this kid even more. And bang! Take a look at that photo of JAVIEN Toviano on a Texas A&M visit, rocking an LSU hat. And I know it's like an all-black LSU hat, so it's not like just out there, but it is very interesting. I've heard different stories about him on recruiting visits and how much he's wanted to be an LSU Tiger. So give Robert Steeples, and I will share a guy by the name of Sherman Wilson. A lot of you might not know who that is. He is a very talented defensive recruiting analyst. So give both of those guys a lot of credit, and just this entire staff for getting this kid on board. Now, in the background, these are his 2021 highlights, the kickoff return and this one. So, as you'll see, there's a lot of running back stuff. Now, what I will say is this. A few positives about Toviano is this guy played at an extremely high level in the state of Texas. So in high school, he played up as a sophomore against a Quinn Ewers-led South Lake Carroll team, just to let you know some of the competition that these Texas high schools play. So he's played against a lot of Division I guys. He's not shied away from, going to the big camps and really being a competitor at those. So something else that is a little bit more minor, he does interview really well, right? And, he is one of those guys that truly feels he has doubters, right? As evidenced by, so as you can see with this Instagram profile, he feels he is being called overrated, which is very, very, very interesting. So, yeah, I mean, look, I love that. I like a kid that comes in with a chip on his shoulder, and, he's going to have to prove that he is not overrated. Now, my personal assessment of him, I do like him. It is very interesting that a lot of his tape are special teams plays, big hits, and running back plays, these past two highlight tapes. There is not a lot of, like, cover corner kind of stuff where, he's in press man and, he's making a, pass deflection in the air. It's just a lot of big hits, big runs, and so on, and so on, and so on, which, right here is a good example of him reading a passing lane and almost getting a pick. And here's another example right here in the background of him making a goal line saving play. Now, coming up here in just a second, you will see him, that's actually it right here, making, what a traditional corner this is what you would want to see him do. Lock a guy down on the outside and force a bad throw. So what I'll say about that is there are people that do view him as a safety, and just based on my evaluation, I do think that is his best position because he does hit so well, and he does like to be very, very, very physical. So that's not me saying he can't play corner, but I do think safety is the better spot for him, but obviously the bigger need will always be outside corner. So you're looking at a super high-def shot right here of Toviano from Rivals, and as you can see, this guy is a unit, right? He kind of looks like an NFL player right here, to be quite honest. So physically, man, he is I can't get over his frame. It really is D1 ready. But is he a D1 ready player? I don't like to say like year one unless I could say a gazillion % that someone could be a year one stud player. But there is that potential with him, and I think it is blatantly obvious just by looking at him. So, once again, I do believe if, On3's age database is true, he is a little bit younger. So he might not be done growing, which is very, very, very interesting. So, yeah, really excited about this. Now, let's talk about the LSU recruiting class as a whole, okay? I think, for me, this class is starting to shape out to be really, really, really good. And if LSU lands the final big DB of this cycle, things are going to get even better. We'll get to that young man's name in just a second. But honestly, give the LSU recruiting staff a lot of credit for getting a very nice prospect out of Texas here to LSU. So we'll see what happens, but you have to be able to get these top 100 athletes. You just do. And this is another big one for the Tigers. Now, before we get into this final name, I want to shout out BK once again. This class will more than likely, barring a miracle, finish in the top 10. Once again, you would like to be closer in that top 5 region. But if you're in the top 10, that's really good, and that could change with the commitment of Desmond Ricks. Now, that is the final DB left on this board, and as you know, LSU's defensive back crop is already jam freaking packed up to this point, okay? So, this is going to be a massive DB class. There might be a decommitment or two before signing day. We'll see what happens there. But, man, especially if Kylan Jackson, who I think is really, really, really good, stays on with this class, this DB crop can be really special. And this, honestly, is probably the biggest position of need on this team, okay? So let's talk about Desmond Ricks a little bit here. His announcement is coming up here pretty soon, right before Christmas. And honestly, Desmond Ricks, being a 5-star from IMG Academy is, absolutely massive. Those are the kind of guys that can get you to the national championship level. Obviously, he's got a lot on his plate. He can go anywhere he wants. I know this recruitment got a little spicy considering Desmond Ricks was a guy that was a late switch to the class of 2023. He was initially a 2024 prospect. So, yes, I do think Desmond Ricks will pick LSU, but man, Florida is going to be after him. And obviously a lot of you know Corey Raymond, right? And he is definitely a guy that really wants Desmond Ricks to be a part of his class. So obviously you got to fend off Florida, you got to fend off Alabama, but that's going to be the next big domino for this recruiting class, and that could be the last top 100 player that LSU gets in this crop, which honestly for a first full recruiting cycle is really good, but it's also typical of LSU football. So good stuff all around by BK and the staff. Once again, Sherman Wilson and Steeples and that entire defensive staff deserves a lot of credit getting a really good player today. So comment down below, do you believe Toviano is the best defensive player? I know I said DB earlier, but the best defensive player that LSU has gotten committed in this cycle. I know a lot of you love you some Deshaun Womack. So let me know. It is power, our LSU. Bah! Great freaking day to be a Tiger fan. And tonight, whew. Oh, it's gumbo, Mama K style. Night 2, let's